Hello and welcome to Just Onside. Hope you're doing fantastically well. I'm in the UK, in Blackburn. I think OS is somewhere else, in warmer climes. I think most of you know that he's in Dubai. So how are you, OS?
I'm doing good, thank you. Ayub. It's been a few days for me. I landed Wednesday evening, quite late, but it's been a couple of days, good productive couple of days as well. But yeah, very nice. Warm weather, as you've alluded to many a time. A little different back home in Blackburn, I believe.
It's absolutely freezing. Oh, it has been. I mean, it's going to get a little bit milder, but apparently we've got Storm Isha over the weekend. 80-mile winds, rain, all that kind of stuff. But I do like your room. It's a massive room. Obviously, they're looking after you.
They've given me the presidential suite, obviously. No. This is the hotel reception. It's a little bit dark in the room, but yeah, it's the reception. Lovely hotel, really nice. Nice amenities and facilities, which I've been enjoying over the last couple of days before I dive into the work. But yeah, no, it's very nice, very pleasant.
Go on, bro. Do a little pan around so we can see exactly, well, at least what the foyer looks like.
Well, let's see. Well, that's kind of the back, just behind us, a little bit of a foyer area, and what
Very
have you.
impressive.
It's nice enough, and then you get a little bit. I think there's a bar there, where there's
You'll be there later on.
obviously orange juices and what have you. But no, it's very nice. Thank you very much, and the
That's not
rooms are
bad at
lovely
all.
as well. Thank you. Not too far
Yeah.
from the old marina.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Okay. Let's before we start, let me ask you to do the usual good stuff. Smash a like, share, join our Twitter or X account. So all the good stuff as usual. All right. Let's get cracking. Again, it's a truncated weekend of football. This is supposedly the winter break. So I think there's a few games of note to talk about, and what better game than the Arsenal. And I presume or not presume, you've told me that you're staying at a hotel which is in some way associated with the Arsenal. So explain that and then talk about what your thoughts are for the game tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I didn't realize this. I didn't choose this hotel as a result, but I found out afterwards. But yeah, the Arsenal official UAE hotel, where a lot of their fans get together to watch all the games, is the one that I'm staying at, Media One Hotel, in Dubai Media City. So it's essentially a bit of a membership. You get loads of rewards and benefits and what have you if you join, and you can watch all the games at Garden at 8. I think the bar is called. I've checked it out, and I believe that even without paying the membership, I should be allowed in. So that's a good thing. First things first. But it's a lovely bar, multiple kind of TVs and what have you. So I might just cheekily watch the game with fellow Arsenal fans. All the Arsenal games are screened at this bar. So hopefully tomorrow at 4:30 local time, it should be on the old telly. So that should be a nice experience.
All good stuff, all good stuff. So what about the game itself?
Yeah, I think just in terms, you're right. You mentioned it, you didn't you, about the fact that this is one of those unusual weeks where the game week stretches over a couple of weeks. Teams getting various different rests. Arsenal actually visited Dubai for some team training. I think they left earlier this week, Tuesday, I believe it was, and I think some other clubs, I think City and Man City, are also in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. One of my kind of friends of a friend actually bumped into Erling Haaland at one of the restaurants, Erling Haaland and Amir Khan. So they're all having a good old time. But no, I think from an Arsenal perspective, I think the break came at a good time, didn't it, Ayub? They were struggling a little bit, a few difficult results, definitely issues in front of goal. And you could see some of that confidence being drained away more and more. That first half went on against Liverpool in the FA Cup. I think the break has come at a good time, if you ask me. Mikel Arteta was asked about it in his pre-match conference and spoke about how the team's recharged and what have you. Again, proofs in the pudding, and we'll see what kind of performance they put forth tomorrow. It's a must-win, even though it's relatively, I say early in the season, it's not. We're at that stage where you really want to go on a run. If you're serious, this is where it can go one of two ways, right? You can either get back into it or you can fall away. And you have to then readjust what your expectations are for the season. I expect Arsenal to put up a good performance. I mean, having the first game early kickoff, 4:30 p.m. local time, but 12:30 p.m. back in the UK, It'll be interesting to see how the crowd reacts. That's sometimes a difficult spot, I feel, after a bit of time off. But Arsenal can have no excuses. Yes, they've got one or two players missing, but it's a must-win game. They have to win. It's like the first game of the weekend, so you want to put a little bit of, not pressure on, but obviously Liverpool played on Sunday as well. So yeah, just for their own kind of confidence and psyche, you can imagine what kind of damage it would do if they fail to pick up 3 points a year. So let's see. It's a big game for Arsenal, even at this juncture of the season, I feel.
It should be a stroll in the park, surely. Always, it's Crystal Palace. A little bit indifferent. Hodgson under a little bit of pressure. So surely it's almost the perfect team. Surely.
You say that though, but all Roy Hodgson generally, what's his mantra? What's his kind of modus operandi? It's more a case of he keeps his teams relatively hard to beat. Yes, City should have beaten them, right? They were 2-0 up at the Etihad, but Palace found a way to get themselves a result. I just think to myself, what are currently Arsenal's major issues? If you ask me, it's that they are a little bit risk averse. They're not moving the ball quickly. That Fulham result, especially, the FA Cup was a little tricky. They played very well in that first half, but I think against Liverpool. But I thought the Fulham game the performance was atrocious. They were completely drained of all confidence. They weren't moving the ball quickly, and I feel like Palace are one of the teams that normally tend to sit in and two banks of four. I think Elise is missing, which is a huge boost for Arsenal because he's a top player. He will not be at Crystal Palace next season, you would imagine. But I just feel like because the Palace will get themselves relatively organised, teams that are well organised, you've got to move the ball quickly, really quickly, sharp in amongst them, want to really get them to turn their heads around and get them kind of facing their own goal. I wonder whether Arsenal, given their lack of cohesion, speed of thought and football, I just wonder whether or not that will rear its ugly head from an Arsenal perspective. So if I could choose opponents, I would have probably chosen a few more before I got to Palace, just in terms of trying to get back on track. But listen, I'm in agreement with you. It's at home. You've had some dodgy results. You need to get back on track. The performance against Liverpool was okay in the first half. I think if they play quickly like they did home to Brighton about a month or so ago, I think they should have plenty for Palace. But Palace are a stubborn old team, so it's up to Arsenal to prove that they've put that little bit of a slide behind them and get back to winning ways.
And if they don't, what's your thoughts? If they don't win, I know it's quite early in the season, or at least it's far too early to say. But would you sort of say that in terms of chances to win the league, they'll have been severely dented?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's close to fatal, especially if Liverpool can pick up a win. And the reason is away to Bournemouth. Maybe we'll just cover that game later on. But I just think when you look at Liverpool right now, Ayub, I know we're not discussing Liverpool, but if you're given the injuries they've currently got, Robertson out, Tsimikas out, so no first choice left back. Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to miss a few games. Salah's away, African Cup of Nations. You've got Endo away as well. If you look at the players they are missing, Szoboszlai might be missing. There's some thought that he might be back. If Liverpool pick up a win, not only is it, I guess, a blow to Arsenal and City, but it's this renewed confidence that Liverpool keep producing results, even when you think, oh, this could be a difficult game. Bournemouth have won 7 out of 10. So I just think if an Arsenal slip up is coupled by a Liverpool win, it's not just the maths for me. It's the fact that Liverpool will just continue to take more and more confidence. They've only lost one game all season, let's not forget. So that's the bit I would say that is probably the most difficult thing for Arsenal to overcome, this kind of incredible confidence and kind of optimism that Liverpool will take moving forward, thinking, hey, we're managing these games and getting through maximum points, even when we've got multiple first team players missing. So yeah, I think it would be pretty much near fatal if Arsenal fail to win and Liverpool pick up 3 points at Bournemouth.
Right, enough about Arsenal. There's another game on Saturday tomorrow. It's an important game. It's at the bottom of the table, but there's also an important subplot: the return of Ivan Toney. What impact do you think that's going to have?
Well, the relegation is more your subject of expertise, Ayub, because of the team that you support. I mean, I'll just quickly give you my thoughts. They need him quickly, and he will be playing. I think he's going to captain the team as well. I just think he's such a class player that even though Brentford have got a myriad of injuries, Mbeumo, Kevin Schade, and many others. I read a statistic somewhere that they've got the most games missed by kind of first team players or what have you this season, and they're in a horrendous run of form. It's not just that Toney he needs to come back and hit the road running, to be honest with you. And this is a huge game first up. Let's see what his fitness is like. I imagine he'll be okay. It'll be interesting to see if he gets to the full 90. But you'd have to think, Ayub, that if they fail to pick up a win, it's not just the fact that their poor form continues, but obviously Forest taking points, maybe even 3. So a huge game. I do think, though, he's such a class player. I have to think he's going to deliver a few wins, and perhaps a few wins is all it's going to take, really, at the back end of the season.
It's written in the stars, isn't it? You just know that he's going to score a goal tomorrow, and it's needed. You alluded to the point about Brentford being in a difficult situation. It's been compounded by injuries to key men, but I just got a feeling that this guy Toney's a superstar. He really is. I mean, I think it was harsh. I still believe that his penalty was harsh, but he's done his time. He's back. I think he will be fit. Match fit is different. There's obviously being match fit is completely different. So I don't think he'll start the game, but he'll certainly come on. And I just sort of think that the reaction will be fantastic. I think he'll be chomping at the bit. I think he'll play on adrenaline. He's instinctive. He's a quality player, and if you're a betting man, put some money on Toney scoring, because I just got a feeling he's going to score a goal. But Forest are in big, massive trouble. I mean, obviously there's a case pending at this moment in time. There could be points deduction. So if you're at the bottom of the table or towards the bottom of the table and perhaps expecting some points deduction, it's going to be a dire situation. So for Forest, it's a must win. They've got to try and get as many points as they possibly can do, because if there is going to be a point deduction, they'll need every single point. So it's a game with high stakes. Brentford as well, obviously they're at the wrong end of the table, but I think they'll be all right. They'll be all right. But Forest certainly are in a dire situation.
You're right about, obviously, the charges that have been brought against Nottingham Forest. You wonder how that will play into the psyche of Nottingham Forest players. I guess the club, they've obviously got still a relatively new manager. I wonder whether or not they've got some indication of what a potential points deduction or what a potential penalty could look like. I mean, look, you're absolutely right. Everton, I mean, they've obviously been charged as well, but they would argue, well, we've been there, done it. We'll do it again if needs be. There is some level of adversity that they've overcome with Forest. You just wonder how that would affect them. So you're right in terms of any potential distractions for the club. They are away from home. It feels, to your point, with the home crowd being buoyed by the return of the talismanic Toney, with Forest perhaps feeling, I want to say sorry for themselves, but it's written perhaps for Brentford to get a win, kind of under the lights. I'm still a wait and see. I think if they had Mbeumo healthy and Toney and what have you, you'd think that should be plenty enough with about half the season to go. But look, ultimately, Forest currently are above Brentford, so a huge opportunity for them. It's quite a huge game, to be honest with you. And like I said, the unknown of a potential penalty does create a lot of uncertainty in not just the clubs that might be affected directly, but also the clubs that are also fighting relegation with Everton and Forest. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out.
Well, I'm absolutely convinced Forest will get a points deduction. If Everton have got points deduction, it would seem bizarre because the crime is the same. I'm pretty certain, obviously, it's the same crime that they've committed. So therefore, I would expect the penalty to be the same. So certainly, I do expect them to be deducted points, whether it's 10 points, which is what I think, because I'm not sure how they work this out, but I certainly expect a deduction of 10 points. So the pressure is on Forest, especially. So it's going to be an interesting game. As I said, there's various subplots to the game. So it certainly, and I'm always fascinated by sort of relegation battles. I don't know, there's something different, and obviously having experienced it for the last 2 seasons, it's something quite emotionally turmoil as well. So it's something to look forward to. Right, we're going to talk about Liverpool and Bournemouth, but before we do that, I just want to interject or sandwich in the Henderson, Jordan Henderson, who's I think he's had his contract terminated, or I think mutually they've agreed a termination of contract. I think I read it. He's already signed for Ajax, so he will be an Ajax player. So, what's your take on this? I mean, I've got my own views on the Saudi league. I mean, I think it's a joke league. Uh, I'm not going to
Maybe,
beat around the bush.
maybe you should go first. Go on. What
Right.
do you think? You're right. He has
It's
signed
just,
for
yeah,
Ajax.
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know whether this is first of many who'll probably do the same, where the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Now, obviously, financially it is, but maybe if you've still got inclinations to play
Thank,
football at a high level.
thanks for telling me that the grass isn't always greener. Now that I've traveled halfway around the world to take a job opportunity, but thanks very much, Ayub. Great timing as always.
uh, but in terms of football, it if you as a footballer still want to play at a good standard, I think I mean, I've seen some of the games. I mean, especially when I've been at France, there is nothing else to watch. So I've ended up watching the Saudi League, and my goodness me, it's dire, it's awful, it's shocking, it's an embarrassment to the game to a certain extent, because there's stages are, I won't even say half full. There's smatterings of people. The standard of football is quite ordinary, quite average. You've got a sprinkling of decent players, but again, if you're playing with quite average players, it sort of, you don't need to excel. So it's purely driven by greed. If you're there, you're only there for one reason. That's for money. Henderson, I was surprised. I did. He seemed to be a guy that was quite committed to play football at the highest level that he possibly could do, and I was quite surprised that he went. Uh, but now it doesn't surprise me that he's wanted to move. Now, I'm not sure whether that's going to happen with other players as well, but it's a league that to me is just it's an embarrassing league at this moment in time. Maybe it might develop into a slightly better league, but I doubt it. The only reason people will go to play in Saudi Arabia is for the Benjamins.
Yeah.
So
Is there
I'm
anything
glad that
is there anything wrong with
he's.
that?
Uh, I think there is. I think there is. In this day and age, if you are uh, Jordan Henderson, if you're one of these top players who's made a fortune, Jordan Henderson, when he signed for whichever team he signed for, because I care not who he signed for. To me, all teams are the same. They're all sort of farcical teams at this moment in time. So he's made more money than he will ever need in this life, unless he absolutely ridiculous spends. I mean, so he's only gone to sort of increase his ever fat wallet. I just don't think in this day and age, I could understand if it's a player who perhaps is has been on the fringes, perhaps not made the money that other top players have made. I can understand that. If you get an opportunity like that, you go. But for Henderson, to me, it was disappointing. I mean, he's obviously he's not a young man, but I still think he had a few seasons left in him. And now he's obviously shown that the Saudi league isn't what he wanted. He's gone to Ajax, which again, I mean, it's not the most demanding of leagues, but I hope more players do that. I really do.
What's your problem with what the Saudi Pro League are doing by throwing money to attract top talent? I mean, they are doing it in other sports and they are having a huge amount of success in other sports. All prize fighting or any real boxing fight worth having currently is taking place in Riyadh. They're obviously got huge or made huge strides in the world of golf. Some may argue that the way and the manner in which it's been done has been a little distasteful, or some may argue that. But ultimately, if you want to attract top talent in what is ultimately a capitalist society that we live in, Ayub, especially some of the major names in more sports, being kind of Americans or from these shores and what have you, you ultimately, or in Europe, you have to throw money to attract top talent. I mean, I don't see what the issue you've got. I really don't understand what the issue is here. I mean, it happens in every walk of life. That's how you make the product that you're ultimately trying to sell, kind of appetizing and attractive for the consumer. And by the way, his club's called Ittifaq. But I don't really have an issue. Now, I might have a few more comments after that, but I'd just like to give you the opportunity to respond. I don't understand what your problem is.
Right, you're absolutely right. My argument is weak because it's as you said. What There is nothing that the Saudi league is doing which I should have an objection to. I think my concern more is, I suppose, the individuals who are going. Perhaps that's where my gripe is, that as a professional footballer, you want to test yourself on the biggest stage. And when greed becomes the dominant factor, especially when you've already made enough money to last a couple of lifetimes, perhaps that's the issue. As I said, maybe it's not really with the Saudi league, because they're doing what anybody with lots of money should be doing. If you want to create a football league, what do? You offer huge amounts of money, attract what you consider to be the best talent. Now, obviously, they've not attracted the best talent en masse. They've got a sprinkling of decent players, but it's that my concern is that when Henderson, when Mahrez, when all of these guys were kicking a ball when they were 6, 7 years old, was money the motivating factor for these guys? No, it wasn't.
Yeah, but they're
But
not.
obviously now
They're
it
not. They're
is.
not 6 or 7 anymore.
No,
You.
but they've made enough money. That's the thing, you see, because uh, it's you look at foot.
I don't understand it. Honestly, I get what I get where you're coming from in the sense of, I mean, I don't think it's right. I disagree with you fundamentally. But ultimately, yeah, what you're saying is they've got enough. So why don't they just keep themselves respectable and play in the
No, no, no,
European?
no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if when you play football, especially sports, it's about being the best or trying to play for the best team, winning as many trophies as you possibly can do. So when you hang up your boots, you can look back on a stellar career, or a career where you say, I've given it everything. I've done as much as I possibly can do. Now, if your motivating factor in sport is purely money,
No, but
then
he
to me it's as I said, I could understand if you've done everything that you need. It's like with Ronaldo. I have no objection with Ronaldo, even though he probably made more money than anybody. But at the end of the day, he's 40 years old. He's done everything that he needs to do. Why not cash in? Henderson still had maybe 2 or 3 years of playing, possibly in the Premier League. Maybe not for Liverpool, but certainly playing in the Premier League. But what he's decided to do is is just cash in at a stage
absolutely.
where still he had uh, time to perhaps
Yeah,
play the game at the highest level. So it's more that.
but playing the game at the highest level doesn't necessarily equate to paying the bills. I mean, look, you're right. He's
Well, there you go. I mean,
wealthy.
he's not going to have any issue with paying the bills. Believe you me. Oh, yes, he's made plenty.
Well, that was. I will come on to it because I've not really answered your question just yet. But like I said, I've taken quite umbrage with your perspective here. Look, in the end, Ayub, him cashing in is exactly what he should be doing. He's won everything that he could possibly at Liverpool. He won. He lifted the Premier League title. He lifted the Champions League trophy as well. Could have got himself another one. He's coming to the back end of his career from a being a valuable first team player, and ultimately he's been given an opportunity to earn incredible sums of money. I don't really have an issue with it. Now, what I would say is that with all of this noise that's been coming over the last couple of weeks with Jordan Henderson, because it's not been something that's happened all of a sudden, has it? It's been going on for a couple of weeks now. What I find a little bit, I think Jordan Henderson is, from all intents and purposes, all the interviews he's ever given, the way he led Liverpool through those years, he's a player I like. He's a guy that comes across incredibly well. Genuinely, I think he's a
Yeah.
I think he comes across as a good bloke. No real negative headline, speaks well, all the rest of it. I say all the time, I wish players would own their decisions. When he was talking about projects and not doing it for the financial reasons and what have you, I just don't understand why in this country especially we have such a complicated relationship in terms of with the idea of lavish or the opportunity to earn lavish sums of money. Yes, normal everyday folk could only dream of earning the kind of money and wealth that footballers could, but I don't think you need to necessarily rub it in their faces. I think you can, however, front up and say, look, it's an incredible sum of money. You saw John Rahm when he joined Live Golf recently, and he spoke about it. He said, look, it's something I have to do for the sake of me and my family. Now, whether you agree or not, I'm at least appreciative that he didn't try to put any kind of different spin on it, and he spoke about the fact that it was a serious offer that they put forward in front of him. And the only thing I would say is there's been some other noises with regards to Jordan Henderson. We know that his move was frowned upon, let's say, at least by the LGBTQ community and what have you. What I would say is that all of a sudden what you're seeing in the press, especially, is a narrative to suggest in some way that there's going to be a way back for Henderson in terms of his relationship with said communities. Like, I've read reports recently about how he's not actually earned a penny currently of his £350,000 reported salary a week. So it's as if to say, well, I went there, but actually I've not benefited in any way, shape, or form. Will you let me back in? I'm not saying this is Henderson's kind of narrative that he's forging. What I'm saying is that when I see reports, I just read the tea leaves and think, what is going on here? And what you can see is it's a sense of, look, can you let me back into your group type of thing? I've not earned anything like the kind of money. Now, it's either that, or the other reason, which is being discussed obviously currently, is that he was going to suffer from a heavy kind of tax burden if he was going to come to the UK, which does make sense, because if you spend a certain amount of time in the UK, not that I'm a financial advisor or tax advisor, but if you spend a certain amount of days in the UK, then you are a resident for the purposes of tax with regards to the UK, which is one of the reasons why many think that he's gone to Ajax as opposed to returning back to the UK. So, look, I think he's earned a significant sum of money in Saudi Arabia. I don't have any qualms with it whatsoever. I think probably he's gone to Ajax and not returned back to the UK for those very reasons that quote unquote Uncle Sam in America, as we would say, or the taxman here, would take a good chunky sum, let's say, out of said earnings. And again, I don't have an issue with it. I wish you'd own it. And I think it's absolutely fine. You're in the twilight of your career. Go out there and earn what you can, ultimately, to build the best possible life for yourself. And you're right, he probably doesn't need to work another day in his life for you, for sure. But you tell me why billionaires keep working, and footballers are pretty much all the same.
I think it's called greed, but let's move on quickly. I mean, yeah, it's that we're obviously at opposite ends, and I think it's a valid point you make. I mean, as I said, mine is much more emotional driven, and it's much more purely just based on perhaps a romantic ideal, which in this in the modern vicious world that we live in, I don't think there's much room for romanticism, but it's perhaps sort of based on that. But that's our thoughts. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the subjects we've talked about, maybe especially on the Saudi league. I know we talked about it a good few months ago, and it's a little bit quiet. But what's your thoughts on Henderson, and what's your thoughts on the Saudi league? We'll be delighted to hear what your thoughts are. Right, on to Sunday. I'm not quite a super Sunday, but Bournemouth are playing Liverpool, and you alluded to the point that Liverpool keep finding ways to win games of football. And they are at the moment stretched. They've got players missing through injury and international duty. So it's Bournemouth, and Bournemouth are playing some decent stuff. They're getting some really good results. My man Iriola has finally found the magic formula.
I like how you preface it with "my man." All of a sudden, you're taking complete ownership of that pick, aren't you?
And now I am, since I've started winning. So it's going to be a tough game. It's at Bournemouth, and Bournemouth are quite tidy at home. So, but Liverpool, it's a must-win, because I think the way that City are playing now, that they can't afford to slip up. So, what are your thoughts? Because it's not going to be an easy game.
Yeah, I don't think it's a must-win. I mean, look, City are City. Ultimately, they are what they are. But the fact of the matter is that if Liverpool draw, I think they'd still be top, because I think they've got the best goal difference. Obviously, City will have a game in hand. I'm suggesting if City win that game, look, it's not a must-win. I think ideally it's definitely a must-not lose game. I mean, they've got players that are missing. No doubt you want to win every game. Bournemouth, to your point, are in good form, won 7 out of the last 10 games. The manager's got them playing right, and they're at home, so they'll fancy themselves against a relatively depleted Liverpool team. I mean, even if they had their whole first team available, but they were missing Salah, I'd say, I mean, they've got players. They're not a one-man team, absolutely not. But what I mean is, even then, Bournemouth would think, right, we've got an opportunity here. The fact is, they could be missing a lot of key players. Like I said, Robertson missing, Tsimikas missing, Trent Alexander-Arnold's going to miss a few games, Salah, Endo, Szoboszlai, doubtful. Who knows what else has been going on. So, look, I just think you kind of alluded to there about finding ways to win. And that's where I think such a huge amount of credit goes to this manager that I absolutely love. I think when he leaves the Premier League will be worse off for it. There's just something about his kind of personality and spirit that seems to be getting Liverpool over the line. And yeah, look, the manager doesn't kick a ball. I don't want to give him kind of too many props, but he has that club in the palm of his hand. And what I like about what Liverpool have achieved this season so far, and I say so far, is the fact that it's a very different style or very different way of playing as they have been previously. Previously, if you remember, when he early came on, when he first joined Liverpool, they were very much. It took him a little bit of time once he had a few transfer windows, but then it was a case of a lot of pressing, also a lot of counter-attacking football. Mane, Salah, pretty much at their absolute peak. What you then saw was a little bit more of a dominant, kind of slow, methodical possession, but still being able to absolutely dominate fullbacks, getting double-digit assists every season for the best part of 2-3 years. And now what you're seeing is this ability, even when not necessarily playing well, to still find ways and to have that kind of goal scoring punch, as I would say, whether it's the first 11 or whether it's kind of players off the bench. And I think the manager has to take a huge amount of credit for the way he's actually activated the bench in games, used it to huge effect for Liverpool. That was an issue Liverpool fans had previously about not having enough options off the bench. They absolutely do now, especially once they have their full squad available. They can compete with the best. Yes, there's still one or two niggly little issues. Nunes still perhaps not as clinical as they would like him to be. That midfield just settling a little bit, and obviously injuries in the fullback area. But look, that spine still, in terms of having those critical players that can get Salah back. Yes, there's a hamstring injury at the AFCON that he suffered. Let's see what comes of that. But Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah, all three pretty much at the peak of their powers this season. Arnold as well, I think, has taken another huge step forward, probably causing Gareth Southgate a bit of a headache as well, heading into the Euros. Yeah, look, a huge amount of credit to Liverpool. I don't think it's a must-win. I really don't. I mean, they've only lost one game all season, and they're top of the table for a reason. They are the best team in the league, in my opinion, right now. Doesn't mean they're playing the best stuff, but the best team in terms of just that ability, that uncanny ability just to continue to pick up points. So huge opportunity. And again, if they pick up 3 points with critical players missing, you can just imagine what it's going to do to their confidence.
But I say a must win, and I do believe it's a must win because of the team that they're playing. I think what if you're competing with the likes of Manchester City, I mean, I just think that was a statement victory what they've done, and I am absolutely convinced that they will go on a run where they will win every single game. That's what this Man City team is capable of. So if you've got serious inclinations to win the league, it's teams like Bournemouth, albeit they're a good side, but they're a mid-table side, albeit you're playing away. You have to win these games. The games that perhaps you say, well, look, it's not a must-win. Perhaps Spurs, perhaps Arsenal. These are the teams where maybe what you don't want to do is lose, but certainly against teams who are maybe 6th, 7th, 8th onwards, you have to, because City aren't going to lose games. They're going to win more games than they're going to draw. So certainly, I think for that reason, I consider it a must-win. And it's the missing key players, but you've spoke perfectly and beautifully on Klopp, and I think he he is a magical coach. He is a magical coach. He sort of gets the best out of these players, and even when they're not playing well, there's a camaraderie, and it takes some doing, because if you think about how long Klopp's been at the club, it's perhaps almost Ferguson like, where it's sometimes difficult. I mean, we've obviously had over the last couple of days Mourinho who got sacked, and Mourinho almost has a lifespan of 2 or 3 years, and then after 2 or 3 years, it just seems to sort of go a little bit stale. Klopp has maintained a freshness, and there's an art. He's a wonderful man manager. If you listen to him being interviewed, obviously sometimes he's quite an abrasive character. If you rub him up the wrong way, but certainly in terms of how he treats his players, how he views Liverpool Football Club, it's absolutely fantastic. You can't help but love the guy, and that's part of the reason why I love Liverpool, because I really think that Liverpool is not just a football club; it's an institution. There's lots to love about the city as well, the people, and Klopp is just he was made to manage Liverpool. I think it's almost it's a match made in heaven. But going back to the game, I certainly see it as a must-win for those reasons. That Man City will win game after game after game. And come the end of the season, what you don't want to be doing is dropping points against teams that really you should be winning. So that's the reason why I think it's a must win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you speak well about Klopp there. And I think what's amazing about Jurgen Klopp, when you think about the time he spent there, I think he joined in the autumn of 2015, if memory serves. And if you think about it, to keep Liverpool competitive once he got them to the point where they were competitive, yes, they had that season where they had a lot of injuries and even then managed to scrape Champions League football. Yes, last season was also a little bit challenging, but for the most part, especially what Liverpool had before then, they are consistently one of the best teams in the league, especially having pushed City close twice and obviously got their hands on the Premier League trophy. What's amazing about Jurgen Klopp, sorry, I was about to say, is in amongst all that time, you don't find one player who's actually had anything bad to say about him, current or
Yeah.
former players. And normally what happens is when you're at the top for as long as he has been, not just at Liverpool, but before then, you'd expect him to have ruffled some feathers and disappointed some players along the way. I mean, you look at Ferguson, successful throughout, but of course he had his issues,
Yeah.
didn't he, with
Yeah.
certain key players, Beckham, Stam, Keane, just to name a few. I mean, look, ultimately there's something about magical about him. He's got he's got the entire club, I would argue the entire city, but Everton fans, in the palm of his hand. Yet he he never really abuses that kind of power, let's say, by making decisions in a very selfish way. Look, I think if we'll cover this maybe moving forward, but if they can get their hands on another Premier League title trophy, I think this would be a huge fill-up in terms of his legacy. I think it's absolutely secure from a Liverpool perspective, but I'm talking about in the pantheon of managerial greats that have kind of managed in this country, or I should say in the UK, as well as kind of in European football.
Perfect way to finish the show. Excellent.
Well, our Leeds playing this weekend, are you?
Well, yes, we are. We're playing my sort of hometown team, my place of birth, Preston. So we're playing them on Sunday, and they beat us a couple of weeks ago. So I'm a little concerned because it was a low block. They were quite aggressive, quite physical, and it was something that we couldn't handle. I mean, we got Melia sent up, which didn't help the cause. But it's certainly from our point of view, it's must win. It's must win. Every single game is must win because it's such a competitive top four at this moment in time. Leicester, I mean, they you might as well give them the title now. Ipswich, we keep on thinking they're slipping up, but they keep on winning. They draw a few games, but they win, and there's still a few points between us and them. Southampton are the danger, so that's why for us it's just keep winning, keep winning, keep winning. But it's going to be a tough game. As I said, I mean, Preston have beaten us only a few weeks ago, so that's fresh in the memory. They've lost most of the games, but they beat us. But I'm confident. It's at Ellen Road, and we're quite solid at Ellen Road, and we play quite well and quite most of our victories are Ellen Road. So I'm sort of, but I'm not getting too carried away at the moment. I'm getting more and more nervous. But let's see sort of what Sunday holds for us. So
all credit to the manager. He stabilised things well, I must say.
Look, I'm still, the jury's out for me on Fark. I think, as I said, he's got some really good players. It helps if you've got good players. But let's leave it. Let's pick this up next week. Hopefully we've won, so I'll be in a joyous mood. You can sort of talk about Fark again, being a great manager. But let's leave it for the moment. So, Owen, absolutely excellent to speak to you in Dubai.
Likewise.
I've seen a lot of the residents moving behind you.
I saw a father trying to rock his baby to sleep, and I was thinking he was just pacing up and down, bless him. But yeah, we'll see if we move this setting around. We'll see.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, if we do a shoot during the weekend, we could obviously have an outside shot, but it's not too bad. It's nice. But there is a lot of movement in the background. So great to have you.
Likewise,
have a wonderful weekend. I know you start your new gig on Monday, so all the best for next week, and we'll sort of catch up in the next few days. So until then, see you, Owen, and audience. We'll see you soon. Ta-ra for now.